finally got you right where I want you.
I'm in.
Controversy.
Let's go.
Hey, welcome to Residing in North Idaho. Just me and Dave today. It's 0750 hours, nice and early. The only time we could fit one in today. So, Eric's off playing cop or something. I don't know what he's doing. Renee's in Vegas and Kristen's moving because we're moving our house right now. So
she's moving with you. Let's just make that
yeah. She's not moving out without me. We're moving together. So there's a bit going on in our lives. That's the reality of it. So here we are today. We're going to talk about, Dave, this was your idea. I think it's a good idea. We're going to talk about lateral transfers in public safety. So this is a really specific podcast, but we get a lot of questions about this. We have a lot of people reaching out. Obviously, I've done videos on how North Idaho is cop land. And there's a huge number of retirees up here and a huge number of public safety personnel that want to get up here and live the North Idaho life. Lots of veterans as well. So the question about laterals comes up quite a bit, and Dave's perfect for this because he kind of thought this through. You didn't end up doing that, but
I stayed in public safety, but
you switched teams, I guess.
Yeah, everybody asks, what's better, cop or fireman?
Went from red to blue.
Shoot, I like a recliner, but I also like my own space. So
good.
Yeah, that's a big thing for a lot of people that are coming up here, especially with law enforcement, fire backgrounds. I mean, it even translates over into nursing and got your hydrogen bottle.
Yeah, hydrogen water.
It even translates over from people that are just transferring jobs to something that's new. It's difficult at times. I get the question asked all the time. Why didn't you stay with the fire department? Why did you go from, and my background, if you don't know, I started as a firefighter paramedic with San Bernardino County, down in California. They run about 130 to 150,000 calls a year. Tons of structure fires, depending on where you're at. Cover about 20,000 square miles. They have a $250 million budget. It's a large department. And I was there for 15 years. I left as a captain. And
can I pause you? Were you young for a captain? Because
I was.
Yeah, you're like a savant, right? Like, I mean, you were on your way, bro.
Not a savant, but I was motivated. So I did promote early. I was about 30 years old when I promoted to captain. And there's challenges that come with that too.
Oh yeah, you got to deal with the old salty dudes.
Yeah, you walk in and you have an engineer that's been there for 30 years. And you're like, hey, this is what we're doing today. He's like, no, we're not. Oh shoot. So conflict, right?
Yeah.
So when I left, I came up here and I decided to go law enforcement. And a lot of people questioned my decision as to why you would want to leave a career that you know so well and go on to something else.
And not to mention the pay. I mean, you were getting paid well down there, right?
Yeah.
And to come up here and take a huge pay cut
with overtime. I mean, I think we calculated it out. I took about a 78% pay cut to move to Idaho.
Wow.
And just to clear, I mean, that probably scares a lot of people if you're a cop or a fireman, or you're going to go from a high paying area to somewhere like North Idaho that may not meet your wages or where you were at. I would take the 78% pay cut all day long.
Why?
Being somewhere that you want to be and somewhere that you do assimilate with the community. It's so important. And I'll tell you what, money is the only thing that we had to keep us down there. I mean, other than the fact that I was promoting through and I had an established career, the fact is that coming up here and pushing the money aside and saying, okay, we're coming up here for a better way of life. We had to live off a budget. We couldn't vacation the way we wanted. I had to sell my brand new truck. And it was all worth it. I mean, my kids love it up here. My wife loves it up here. I love it up here. The people that were around, it was 100% worth it. And this comes into that DMV conversation with that LA police officer who was 55. 55 years old and met him in there. And he's like, man, if I could go back, I would do exactly what you're doing. I would leave my career just because now I got all the money, I got the retirement, but I'm all busted up. He's like, I got medical issues. I can't go do the things I want. And I look back and I don't regret it at all.
Yeah. And we've got numbers too, by the way, of, and these are fairly accurate, but somewhat rough. So if you're wondering pay scale on public safety up here, we're going to go through that in a little bit. So don't bail out just yet. We were going to talk about, I'm going to digress here just for a second, because we were going to talk about some of the comments we get on here.
Oh,
and
goodness.
Dave's fired up right now. I don't let Dave read the comments because
I don't get to see any of the negative comments.
I just take that burden upon myself and let it fester inside me like a cancer growing inside me. So, if you have negative comment, well, here's the deal. Like if you're watching this and you get all pissed off, just go watch something else. It's not worth it,
dude.
It's not worth it to get all upset about shit on the internet and then send me nasty comments. Like I don't care that much. I do joke about it festering inside me, but really blows right over my head. I don't give a damn.
It's amazing. It's absolutely what I left California for is the same thing that you deal with negative comments. You know, this is a podcast. We talk about our opinions. It's mostly opinion based. And that's the great thing about America is you can have your opinion. Just so happens that we live around a bunch of people that have similar opinions to us. And if you don't like it, dude, why are you wasting your time watching this? Go get off the couch and go do something productive with your life.
Exactly.
My goodness.
And for the person that commented that they're just here for my references to underwater basket weaving, thank you, sir. You get me.
Why did you say that? And now I got to hear it
now
again.
You're going to hear it. Appreciate that. There are a lot of good comments. We love those. Keep them coming. We get great video ideas from you guys as well. Cause, you know, I get it when you're moving to a new area or even those that have been here for a while that aren't really out in the community. Like you have a lot of questions about things. We're, you know, we had a couple of people reach out about how does the DMV work up here?
We're going to
talk question. About it. We're going to talk about that because it's different than other places. There's some nuances to it for when you move here, how to go about getting your vehicles registered, getting your driver's license, things like that. So
yeah. And if you do have something, I mean, that's what gives us ideas to go out and find the information for you. So if we're running out of ideas, I mean, it's good if you let us know things that you want us to talk about, you want us to podcast about, get videos about, pull information, let us know so we can do that. We want to be an all-inclusive resource for people that either live here and have questions or people that are looking to move here.
Yeah. So our video about gun laws in Idaho, not the podcast, but the video is like 40,000 views.
That's crazy.
It is crazy. And I have had so many people educate me on gun laws. And I appreciate that. And I'll refer to them. Literally the very first thing I said was that I'm not an expert in this. So there's been some interesting variety of comments on that one.
Right.
Yeah. That's fun stuff. Read through those if you're bored. I got fact checked a lot and, you know, go for it. I'm not an expert in much of anything. So there you go.
Well, back to that lateral thing.
Yeah.
I wanted to touch on
why
that.
we're here.
Yeah. Why we're okay. So for laterals that are moving up here, here's the big deal. I left fire department to go to law enforcement, and it's kind of embarrassing to say why I did, but it's the truth. And I tell people in one short quippet, they say, why did you leave? And I said, ego. I'll tell you, I've worked with the guys at Coeur d'Alene Fire. They're phenomenal. They do a great job. And this is one department that doesn't suffer from the issues my department had, where they have good retention up here. People with the fire department, it's hard to get in. Like they have a good environment. They love their job up here. They do a good job. The men and women at Coeur d'Alene Fire and Kootenai County Fire, Northern Lakes, like they have good departments. Okay. People want to do it. What I will say is that it is vastly different than what I did before. To go from a department where you're potentially running sometimes 2 to 3 fires a night, you're dealing with shootings and stabbings, especially down at those stations 221, 224 in San Bernardino, where it's just rocking.
Yep. To
go somewhere else where you can't lateral. Okay. That's one thing with fire is I couldn't lateral to a position like an engineer or a captain or something else. I'd have to come in as a boot probationary fireman.
Oh, really?
Yes. And so that was difficult for me. It was really, really difficult. And like I said, I hate to say, oh, it's an ego thing. It's not that I feel like I can do a job better than somebody else necessarily, but I do have experience doing those things. And I didn't want to go back and teach probationary classes on how to, how a ladder works and tell you that it's made out of, 6061 T6 heat treated aluminum alloy and tell you how the rungs are 1 1/4 inches and they're set. So, it has 20 striations. I didn't want to go over that stuff anymore. And to come to a department and have to start at the bottom was difficult for me. And I think that this is the point I'm trying to get to, is that if I would have gone, I have this whole other life of doing the same job where all of a sudden you can quickly become the guy that's like, well, why don't we do it this way?
Oh,
well, I used to do it this way.
We used to do it. Yeah.
Right. And I didn't want to be that guy. So now going to law enforcement, I don't know crap about law enforcement. I mean, I work with them down there, but I don't know how to do the job. So it was very easy to come up here and take direction from somebody that was 23 years old.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. So it was very easy to check my ego, put myself in place, and go to something else still within the realm of public safety and learn all new. So
do you know, so guys that are Okay, so if you did lateral up here for the fire department, do you have to go to the full academy, or an abbreviated
I don't
academy?
know if you have to go to full academy. I think for a lot of them, no.
Okay, as long as you have it. What is it? So for California peace officers, it was post.
Yeah.
Is it fire or something different?
Fire is completely different. Completely different. There's really not a translation. The best way to get into a department is to come in as admin, right? I had that opportunity to potentially come to a department either here or Spokane and look at a battalion chief position. But then you're that guy. You're that guy that came in that's telling everybody how to do stuff, and you haven't built that rapport. And that's important in our jobs,
right? To
have the respect of the people that are working with you. If you're that guy that comes in from another department, I mean, we've seen that go bad a bunch.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I saw that in the highway patrol. Yeah. Well, you have a commander come into a new office and try to change the culture right away. And that never works out well.
Yeah.
So yeah. Okay. And then for police, I believe there's an abbreviated academy for someone that is like post certified in another state.
So
right?
Yeah, for post certified, laterals for PD are, and this is the other thing to touch about, because a lot of people are considering latering. You can lateral in, and it's just it's actually a shortened FTO phase.
Oh, okay.
So if you're doing really good, they'll accelerate you through FTO. You don't have to go to an academy. You'll have a few weeks of obviously orientation training, about a month, where you're going over learning the new systems and all that. The problem that I've seen for a lot of laterals is that, once again, they have reps somewhere else. They have a background.
Yes.
You coming from CHP, coming up here to Coeur d'Alene PD, you know a different system, you know some better ways to do things, maybe some not better ways to do things.
Yeah.
But for the most part, when you come into a department like that, you really have to check your ego. The guys that do really well that I've seen that are laterals that came into Coeur d'Alene PD were the guys that came in and really treated themselves like a probationary guy. They cleaned up after themselves. They did their stuff. They showed up early. They dressed nice. You know, they played the part, and they kept their mouth shut, to be honest.
Yeah.
Nobody wants the guy to come in and say, hey, back at my department, we did this. Nobody cares.
That's important. That's important. And some of these guys come in, man, I know a guy that came up from Huntington Beach PD. He had like over 20 years, maybe 30. I don't know, like a full career.
Yeah.
And then got on with county up here. The dude had done all, SWAT, riots, all the shit.
Yep.
And he's chill dude. So I'm sure he was
at
fine
probably a higher level, or at least more reps than what happens up here.
They're bringing a level of experience that's like, you just can't get up here, I would think, even in a full career.
Right.
And I think there's a lot of value in that. If they come up with, and I'm sure he did, with the ego in check, like you were saying, and then, be willing to assimilate into the culture up here.
Right.
I think laterals are amazing because of the experience.
Absolutely.
Right.
And there's got to be that blend, right? They got to have 30-year employees, and they got to have the 15-year experienced employees.
Yeah.
They got to draw both. But man, if you're going to lateral up here, that's the biggest advice I can give you, is that you really have to come in with an open mind and understand there's going to be some things might be better. And definitely the life, I think, you're going to shake people's hands downtown. They're not going to be spitting on you.
Yeah.
But you have to come in with the mindset that you're going to learn something new. And it maybe you have a better way. There is a time and place and a day for that when you're off probation, when you've assimilated into the department, to say, hey, Sarge, Lieutenant, whatever, I have this idea and I think it might work really well. That's the right way to go about it. And I think when people come in and they just complain and bitch and moan about Spillman or whatever system they're using, it doesn't work well.
No. And the other thing, it depends. You got to be ready to deal with the culture of whatever community you're coming into, right? So for me, it would be easy to work up here because I always worked in somewhat rural areas, right? That transitions easily. If a guy's coming from LASO and he's used to just hammering gangbangers all day, like, you got to have a different approach when you come up here, right? Because that is just not here in those numbers, at least, at all. So being willing to adapt to that, and I think that's just part of the hiring process, making sure you're hiring an open-minded person who is going to check the ego at the door, so they can come in and kind of adapt to the community up here, because this community is rural. It's, I don't know, good old boy a little bit still, even though it's growing quite a bit. People are friendlier, that kind of thing. So if you came up here with the hard ass cop attitude, I don't know how that would go over.
Yeah, I don't think it goes well. But I've seen both sides. I've seen the laterals that come up where it's very difficult. We had one guy come up, probably watch this and be like, I know you're talking about me, whatever. Came up and made North Idaho just the worst experience of his life. And ended up going to another department over in Washington, hated that because he was back in, I can't enforce the law. I can't do those things. Now he's back in California.
Yeah. It's probably one of those people that's just never happy wherever they end
and
up,
that's the thing. It's like, you know what? You have a bunch of amazing people that work up here and a great group. You just got to tie yourself into them.
Yeah.
And you can make changes too. It's just, you just can't walk in the door, bust it down and say, hey, I got better ideas.
Yeah.
All right.
That doesn't fly. Let's throw some numbers out there.
Yeah.
So, since we talked about fire, I looked it up. Starting out here, if you come from another agency, and now you're saying they would have to start basically at the beginning.
Yeah. Unless so there might be other options now, but
yeah. Okay. So the pay range for that is 72 to 86,000 a year, depending on experience. So,
which is higher than it was when
I think everything's gone up quite a bit since you have, I know county just got a pretty big raise, right? I want to say like 20% or something.
I'm not sure the percentage, but I know they did.
And that was to try to keep up with Coeur PD, right? Okay, so Kootenai County lateral position for patrol, 65 to 82,000 a year, which is like 31 to 39 an hour. That's come up quite a bit because I know talking to our buddy Fontaine, like I want to say he was in the 20s when he was working here, and that
when I started,
that's not very good.
When I started only 5 years ago with Coeur d'Alene, I was making, I think base, I was at like 48. Yeah, that was 5 years. So, I mean, they have made some significant.
You'll see here in a sec. It's gone quite a bit.
Yep.
I would not strap on the vest and a gun for that. That's just
I had to have a job. So
I'm spoiled,
and it was great. And I relished in all of it. I loved it.
Yeah, I get it.
So.
I'm spoiled, man. Highway Patrol got paid really well in California.
Yeah.
I mean, after my academy year, I never made less than $100,000 a year.
I know, dude. You always got nicer jeans than me,
but I only have one pair. I only have one pair of jeans, so let's be real.
All right.
I wash them every 2 weeks. Okay, so jail deputy pay range is 57 to 73,000 with a $5,000 hiring bonus. Oh, I forgot. So patrol on Kootenai County, they have a hiring bonus of $7,500.
Can I talk about hiring bonuses real quick?
Yeah.
Hey, I've seen some really dumb public safety moves because of hiring bonuses. Look, a hiring bonus is a one-time thing and it's gone. I would encourage people. I mean, hiring bonuses are awesome, right? Use it for what it is. Use it for what it is, but don't think that a $25,000 hiring bonus to go to a state where you can't be a cop is worth it for an entire career.
Yeah.
We can burn $25,000 in a day. That money can be gone quick. So just be careful. Hiring bonuses are awesome, but make sure that you're picking the right place to work.
Yeah. I anticipate we're going to see them go up as well. I saw a city in Northern California. They posted a dispatcher job with an $80,000 hiring bonus because they are hurting for bodies.
I still wouldn't dispatch.
Fuck no. Hey, hard job. I appreciate the men and women that do it. There's no way I would want to do that job.
No.
You basically feel all the stress of the officers, but you don't actually get to resolve the situation and be out there on the field and see it with your own eyes. That would be rough.
Yep.
Okay. Coeur d'Alene PD. So laterals for Coeur d'Alene PD are, they only gave me an hourly. No, wait. Yeah. So 30 to 42 per hour. So compare that to 31 to 39 per hour for Kootenai County. So that's Coeur d'Alene PD, and they have a $10,000 hiring bonus.
Nice.
Here's the thing that some people, before I jump over to Washington, let me just share with you ISP, which is Idaho State Police. I had no idea. Those dudes don't get paid very well. What's up with that?
I had
$26 to $29 an hour
for starting, man. I
have heard they're the lowest paid, which blows my mind because in California and a lot of other states, the troopers or the highway patrol are generally the highest paid. I don't know why.
Well, yeah, because registration is $900 for a Vespa down there.
Make our own money right there. That's right. Writing all those tickets. Yeah. So I was shocked about that. ISP, not well paid. They're interesting though. They're not even 24-hour up here, which blows my mind.
Yeah.
They're done at like 2 a.m.
I have a feeling, I mean, we know quite a few ISP troopers. I have a feeling that pay goes up significantly on promotions. Starting pay, so. Absolutely.
That's pretty rough.
Yeah.
Hopefully that catches up. I mean,
I was at 21. I was at 21 an hour when I started.
Really?
21.
God dang, dude.
Yeah. And I was happy to do it.
It's like, You go out to eat once on your shift and you burn an hour of pay. Wow. I feel very spoiled now. Okay. So here's the thing. A lot of guys and gals move up here and then work over in Washington in public safety. There's a caveat to that. Yes, the pay is better. You can live on the Idaho side. However, and you touched on this a minute ago, they are actually not allowed to enforce the law over there. So you just go do your job, check in and check out. And, most of them aren't allowed to pursue, as far as I know. The liability is much bigger. There's a lot of crimes that would be a crime over here are not arrestable over there. So, from the people I talk to, it's like, it's kind of demoralizing to work on the Washington side and deal with the political side of that state.
Yeah. But for anybody that works in Washington that loves Washington, we're all about it. Like, we support the blue wherever you guys are at.
Oh yeah.
What we're saying is that we feel like there is a lack of support for the blue over in Washington. And it's not necessarily the people. Eastern Washington, there's a bunch of great people over there. Eastern Washington is much different than Western Washington. However, politically, there's not the support that you have over on this side of the border. And so I think that's something you got to weigh. Like, what's important? Do I want to work somewhere where, first of all, do you want higher levels of stress? Do you want the crime? Do you want that stuff? Some people do. Younger officers.
Oh yeah. Like,
they want
if you want to get into shit, right, go work in Spokane, because they get in a lot of shootings. They do.
We have a buddy that was just in one. Yeah, that's rough.
And I talked to him the other day, and they had 2 more shootings within a 12-hour period. So they have 16 officers out on admin leave from shootings right now, and they're already hurting for bodies. So Spokane's no joke. You're going to get into it if you work over there. And yes, if you're young and that's what you're looking for, go for it. You'll get paid well.
And once again, we're not saying and I don't need to necessarily, quantify this, but I will say that a lot of it is just because of the political environment of the state as a whole,
100%
where this stuff is allowed.
Yes.
Whereas I will say this, from working with Coeur d'Alene PD, having the support of Kootenai County, working with Post Falls on calls, I felt a lot of support from our admin. I felt a lot of support from the city. Now there's somebody that's gonna be like, oh, they don't support them at all.
Yeah.
They don't pay them enough, whatever. Yeah, I get it. But I felt like I was able to do my job over here, and that it wasn't a nightmare when I had to deal with the aftermath of it. I felt like I had the support. And I feel like the admins up here, I think they do a good job supporting their officers overall in performing their duties.
Yeah.
So
good. It's good to clarify that. Yes, it's 100% the political spectrum over in Washington. I don't work at those departments. I have some friends that do, so I hear it from them. But that's what it is. Spokane PD. So they are a salary range of 66 to 115,000 a year for a lateral, depending on experience. Big difference.
You can make what is that? That's like almost $30,000 more than over in Idaho.
Yeah,
a year.
Yeah. And then you've got Spokane County SO. They're 69 to 96,000 a year. I actually know a chippy that I took on a ride along before he started a long time ago, and he worked for as a chippy for a while. That's CHP, by the way. And he lateraled over to Spokane County. He loves it.
Yeah,
says it's a good culture.
And I think, and I have some friends that work for Spokane PD and Spokane County, and they love it as well. Yeah. So, and on the fire side, there's some people that really enjoy it over there. So,
don't take everything we're saying, fully to heart, because, we do talk about the politics over there and how some guys are upset because you can't enforce the law. That might not be a big deal to you. You might come from somewhere else that's worse, and you come there and you're like, oh, actually I enjoy it here, and you get paid well. Spokane County Jail, 61 to 83,000 a year with a 7,500 hiring bonus. So, not that I would endorse people to live in Idaho and work over there, but it is an option for a lot of people if you're looking at coming up here and you're like, I can't make it work on the pay here.
Yeah.
Obviously, we'd rather have you work in the community that you live. I think that's always better because you're more invested in it personally. But just putting it out there so there are options.
Yeah, well, that's something for law enforcement. A lot of people, what is the term? Don't swim where you fish.
I think it's don't shit where you eat. But That might be the
It's the
better
same
version.
thing. Don't swim where you fish. Don't shit where you eat. Basically, there's a lot of, I've had a lot of officers that say, hey, I'm not willing to work for Coeur d'Alene and live in the same city. So I don't want to run into the people that I have to arrest.
I get it.
Yeah, I get it too. And I'll tell you what, I was only in law enforcement for a couple of years over here. And I don't feel like I was a slug. I feel like I did my job. I did my fair share of arrests. I didn't have that problem. I never felt like I was somewhere where I was going to run into somebody that was violent, that was going to hurt me, that was going to come after me and my family, anything else like that.
Yeah.
I just didn't get that feeling over here. Maybe I'm living a little bit in the white. I don't want to say that. If you're law enforcement, you know, the white, orange, red, and, you know, all these things. I wasn't trying not to be in the black for sure. But, you know, I mean, I still carry, off duty permanently now. I still carry, but I don't feel, I never felt like when I was in law enforcement that I was running into people that were making me uncomfortable. I did see some people that I arrested. Yep. I get it. Yep. I get it.
Get it.
But yeah, never a negative experience.
I've had that happen a couple of times. And honestly, like more often I would see that person that I had arrested and they like thanked you.
I had good experiences with people.
Yeah. So you see them off duty at the grocery store and you're like, oh shit, here we go. And they recognize you and they're like, hey, thanks for, you know, doing your job. I'm like, okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's always a better day than worry about getting shot. Okay. So that's kind of the lateral game up here. You know, if you have specific questions about laterals, reach out to us because we can connect you with the people that can really answer those questions that work at one of these departments. I had a guy reach out recently from Texas and I connected him with a buddy of mine from Kootenai County and they had a phone call and that was great.
And that's a big thing. Obviously, we cater a lot to people in public safety and we know somebody from just about every department up here. So we're definitely not the experts on these things. And obviously these numbers are subject to change by the time this airs. Probably something changes, who knows? Yeah. But if you have questions and you want to talk to somebody from one of those departments, we have some great people that are in those departments that can give you some firsthand experience and give you some ideas on how their job is, whether they like it, what the pros and cons are and things for you to weigh out. Because last thing I want is for like that one gentleman to come up here and somebody just hate it. Yeah. Like they just hate the job. It just doesn't work for them. It's not fast paced enough or they don't get paid enough. You gotta check those things out. So we'd love to help you with that.
Do you think the call type is different here? Like,
oh, certainly.
You saw firefighting and seeing what the firefighters got into up here. Like, is it a completely different job than where you came from?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I mean, obviously training is very similar, right? Mm-hmm. Fire department is kind of the jack of all trades. Like, I mean, there's stuff that you run on where if nobody knows who to call, they call the fire department and they show up and they're like, well, we just got to figure it out. We're the only people.
Which is cool. And that's like something that always appealed to me because I like fixing stuff. Yeah. So I'm like, man, I think I would have enjoyed that job.
Yeah. It's definitely more medical up here. I don't see many fires up here. I don't think those reps are there potential spam. Yeah, it's not happening. So anyways, I mean, there's not as many fires, especially wildland fires. I'll touch on this real quick.
Oh yeah. Good. Oh, please do. Because I had someone call me yesterday and they're like, hey, my wife's all concerned about forest fires up there. So this is a great topic.
Rightfully so. When it's dry, we have the topography and we have the fuel load up here for us to have fires. And granted, I mean, in the past, there's been, especially up in the mountains, way back in the day, the Pulaski fire that you talked about. There's those big things. Those happen. But I will say the biggest difference, I'm going to use it again. Phone winds.
Spell that, please.
FOEHN. Is that it?
I think so.
FOHE. I don't know. The one thing that I have noticed is a big difference. And this is coming from somebody, I wasn't CAL FIRE. I wasn't on a wildland crew, but absolutely I lived in the desert. We were first response to tons of wildland fires. So I have that experience. But what I will say is that the fires that you saw down there primarily were wind-driven fires. Idaho, we don't have those collective winds that are systemic. We have winds that are front-related, right? You get a storm that comes in, it'll blow big winds, and then it passes, it's gone. So fires that you see down in California, the Sawtooth Fire in 2006, I got burned over on July 10th. It was the day after my birthday.
Oh,
we got entrapped and burned over in an engine, right? It's like my first fire. Wildland fire was nuts.
Bad day, dude.
And we had to jump in our engine, and fire burned all around us, caught our engine partially on fire, melted the the air conditioning, which had Freon in it. So they were afraid that we were exposed to phosgene. So we had to go to the hospital. So we got completely, I mean, the house we were protecting burned down. I mean, the whole area. And it was like 67,000 acres in a matter of hours. Like 67,000 acres in a matter of hours. Then you come up here, and I think it was 2 summers ago, they had like a 6,000 acre fire in Sandpoint, burning through the mountains.
They just don't seem to be as big.
Yeah, but it burned for like 3 weeks too. A 6,000 acre fire,
right? Like just a slow. Is that a fuel thing, or is it strictly a wind thing?
So it's burning because of the fuel and the topography, right? I mean, obviously it'll burn its way up a ridge, and then it'll be very slow coming down and so forth. And then depending on as the moisture comes out of the air midday, it's going to build up a little bit more and so forth. But you don't see that. I mean, that's the way fires are supposed to burn, right?
Yeah.
They're supposed to burn slow through the forest. They're supposed to kill off the dead trees or the weak trees or the bark beetle trees. They're supposed to burn the underbrush. That's what they're supposed to do. And so, it's just different up here. I think we still have a fire risk. Absolutely. But it's not a conflagration. And then like what we had down in California, you're not seeing fire whirls and fire tornadoes.
Dude, that's all some scary shit.
You lost your house in a fire.
Yeah.
So, I don't think the fire risk is as high here. I feel very comfortable with that, especially when it comes to life loss. I feel like there's enough time to where you're not having a fire that's spotting a mile ahead of itself.
Yeah.
So
that's when they get terrifying. Yeah, I've noticed, and here's how I would always quantify fires. Like Northern California burns like a mofo all the time. You'd be at work. So I'd be at work as a trooper, and you'd see something kick off in the mountains, and it starts out with a little plume of smoke.
It's called a header.
If you look back in 10 minutes and it looks like a nuke just went off, then you're like, we're going to be a late shift. I'm staying over for overtime. Guaranteed.
Oh, yeah.
This is going to take days. And that, I've seen that here, and I'd be like, oh, I get that little heart increase.
Oh yeah.
Call it what you will. And I'm like, oh, here we go. And then it just never like goes anywhere. No. Just kind of.
Yeah. And like I said,
smolders.
I mean, the more that we do fire prevention, the more chance we're going to have of ladder fuels and overgrown forests. I mean, logging, some people are like, oh, I'm an environmentalist and you can't log. Well, if you don't log, you're going to burn it all.
Yeah.
Pine Flats down where I came from in California, there's no pine trees there anymore. You've had full fuel conversion. Everything's to chaparral and all that stuff. Cause when it burns, it kills the trees, and you're done. The trees are gone. When it grows back, it's all going to be small brush.
Yeah.
So when you get those crown fires, which are wind-driven fires too,
those are terrifying.
Right. So we have to log. We have to do those things. We're so far off topic right now. Where were we at?
No, this is fine. This all relates to public safety. And this isn't like we try to hit these questions that we get. Like we get consistent questions. So we cover public safety. The another one that I get a lot is wildfires, because people coming from other states that have experienced bad fires, they're like, I don't want to go through that again. And there's a lot of forest up here, so they assume that it's just like that. We do have a smoky season. Sometime last year it was like 2 weeks. The week before it was like a month. And that smoke is usually coming from Canada or California or Washington, not necessarily from here. So that's something to keep in mind. That will happen. And
we have had some recent fires that took a lot too. The Medical Lake fire.
Yeah, over Washington.
I flew over that one. I saw firsthand video. I have a good buddy from Coeur d'Alene that his family lost their home there. That was a very dangerous fire. However, and keep in mind, like, I mean, that was hard on the community. I'm not saying anything about fire response or anything. Everybody did exactly what they're supposed to do. Sometimes there was a lot of weather that day. There was some winds that day, but it's still not what I'm familiar with, where it's just a total loss of complete control.
Yeah.
It's like, if you're there or not there, it's not going to change what the fire does.
Right. Yeah.
These guys did a great job bumping the fire, stopping it and saving it from some places they had that opportunity. I've been on fires where there is no opportunity. I might as well go back and wait for the winds to die down before we even touch anything.
That's we experienced that in the campfire in 2018 when we lost our house. And I remember the moment I was up there working, doing evacs, and I was seeing some CAL FIRE guys, and I was like, how's it going? And they're like, oh yeah, we're not even bothering. Like it was like 30, 40 mile an hour winds. And they're like, yeah, we're just doing evacs. There's nothing we can do. We couldn't fly. They couldn't fly because it was too windy and too smoky.
Yep.
So yeah, there are times when, and down there, just let it burn.
Yeah.
Try to get everybody out.
I think in Idaho, so if you're buying a house out in the forest, so we have a lot of flat land here. We have a lot of flat land, especially, I mean, all the way the 95 corridor and then up in Blanchard, Clagstone area. There's a lot of flat land, which once again, now all you have is the fuel. You don't have the winds. You don't have the topography to really burn a fire really fast. So areas like that, I think if you're getting a house and you just follow, I mean, even if you go to CAL FIRE, like home prep guidelines for California, it's one thing they know how to do, right?
They do.
Prep for fire. You look at something like that, you keep your 100-foot clearance from your house. You thin out the trees a certain distance. You keep the ground cover clear. I think you have a really, really good shot of, if there was a fire that came through, even some wind driven, we don't have a lot of gable vents and ways for, ashes and things like that to get inside. I think if you just do those things, I think that actually sets you in a good spot, especially on flat land. I think that you can mitigate a lot of your fire risk and losing your home and those types of things.
Yeah. Keep your gutters clean. That's a big one. That's how a lot of fires kicked off in the ones I've seen is ambers hitting the gutters that have pine needles in them. And then there you go. I think up here, defensible space will make the difference.
Sure. You're up in the hills. That's totally different.
Right.
Yeah.
It did not help in our house. We had a pretty good defensible space where we were at in Paradise. I had at least like 2 cords of like really nicely seasoned oak split against the side of my house. That was a sad day.
That's what you were sad to lose.
I was sad to lose.
You cut wood.
You know how much
you're going to burn anyways.
You know how much effort that took.
Unreal.
To stack.
Not everything else. The stuff you were going to burn anyways burned, and you're bummed about that.
It's just stuff, right? But yeah, no, I think that's these are good viewpoints, and hopefully that answers some questions for some people out there that are wondering about the fire situation. Wildland firefighters up here, are they pretty dialed in?
There's not as many.
There's not what's the equivalent to a CAL FIRE? Is there anything like that?
Idaho, I think it's Idaho Department of Forestry, I think.
Okay.
I honestly, I'm not sure. Yeah, I'd have to look into that. I know there's a lot of federal firefighters up here as well. And I mean, they have hot shots and things like that. They just don't have the amount. They do have, if you're interested though, which is really cool, the Coeur d'Alene Airport right at the top of Atlas. So if you drive northbound from Atlas out of Coeur d'Alene and you take it, is it Atlas or Ramsey? It's Ramsey.
I think it's Ramsey.
It is Ramsey. If you take Ramsey, all the way to where it dead ends into the airport, they actually have bleachers out there. It's really cool. The Coeur d'Alene Airport is used for the regional spot to fill all the FOS check and everything else for all of their planes. So it's actually pretty cool. You can go down there, take your family. It's a good time. And it's not just for fires. It's not like this area is burning like crazy. I mean, they'll fly into Montana, everything else. So, but it is nice during the summer. You go down there, you can actually see them fill up with FOS check, bring the planes in. You can see how big they are. You see the crews working. It's a cool little spot to go sit down and just see how that process goes and how long it takes for a plane to make a drop, fly all the way back, get loaded. I mean, it's not like a 15-minute process.
Right. You got to pump all that crap.
Four drops a day is a good amount for some of those larger planes. And for a DC-10 or something like that, I mean, sometimes they'll only make 2 drops a day, maybe 3 in a shift.
Is it true? I've heard that the what do they call it? The
FOS check.
FOS check.
Yeah.
Is made in Post Falls. Have you heard that?
I did not know that.
I think that one of the biggest manufacturers is here in North Idaho. I'm going to look into that.
You do not want to get hit with that stuff too. I've been knocked on my ass
right. I remember watching a training video that CAL FIRE put out that was like, hey, that changed my viewpoint. They dropped it on a car and it just like annihilated the car. I was like, oh.
Yes. And you're sitting out there, we're dumb, right? We're out there and we're like, oh, check it out. I mean, we're on the line and you see a plane coming towards you. You know they're going to drop near you and you're like looking and all of a sudden you're like, oh, shoot. And it looks like it's all light and feathery. No. You're pink for a week and it knocks you right on your butt. It's not cool. You lay down, cover your head and you're like, oh. Yeah, it's rough. It's
a bad way to go. The other cool thing up here, you'll see the Dipper planes hitting Lake Coeur d'Alene, which is kind of cool.
And Hayden too.
So they'll fly in low and scoop water right off the. This is another reason not to paddleboard in Coeur d'Alene, by the way. Other than paddleboarding sucks. They'll come down and scoop right out of the lake, and they're like dodging boats in the summertime because it's busy out there, and scoop that water and go dump it on fire. Same with helicopters. They'll come in and dip buckets, which is always fun to watch if you're out on the boat and you've been drinking. So don't drive.
Don't. boating and drinking don't
I have
mix,
a-
which is
I have a 16-year-old now that can drive my boat. So
there we go.
Done.
You can drive. You don't even need a driver's license to drive a boat up here.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. I didn't know that either. My daughter was driving our boat last year and she loves it.
Oh, is it just over a certain age? Like,
Dude, I have to look into that.
yeah.
I hate giving people incorrect information.
No,
I don't know.
you're going to get a comment. Someone's going to be like, you don't even know boating laws, you idiot.
I know. I will ask. Yeah, I know. I'll just throw those in. I will ask Ryan Miller, who's in charge of that stuff. I will find out.
Ooh, let's get him on the podcast to talk about boating laws.
Yeah. Oh, good idea.
Yeah. Okay. That's
Ryan,
a
you've
big
been
one.
called out.
Yeah. We
We're
need
going
you.
to make you come up here.
I had some plans to talk about some other stuff, but I think we probably just should not, because I think that was a good, fully enclosed podcast dealing with first responders and fires. We can save this for another day. This is politically controversial.
Make sure if you're interested about the DMV, I know it's like not the greatest thing, but we're going to try to do a podcast to talk about the fees and how to register and the certain things that you can look forward to with the DMV up here. There's actually a lot of really cool benefits. So look forward to that, because we'll try to narrow that down so you have a good idea of what to expect when you come up here, especially if you're trading in a car. We'll talk about the trade-in credit and things like that Idaho does as well. Yeah.
And what will shock you is how nice the people at the DMV are here. Like, nice.
They are nice.
Not like other DMVs in other states. I'll tell you that. They don't hate their lives, as far as I can tell.
Yep.
On that note, let's call it, man.
All right.
Thanks, Dave.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Catch you next time.